Painting is not only a creative art, but an excellent way to express your emotions and feelings. The word painting means different things to different people. For some, it might be a colorful adventure, while for others, it means relieving stress and anxiety. And no one can doubt the creative power of art and painting. Artists around the world use painting as a medium to express their thoughts and feelings in a very aesthetic and visually appealing way. Every piece of art is a masterpiece and reflects the struggle, the thought process, and the emotions that are linked to them. Artists have an impeccable way of pouring their emotions into the piece of art that lives through generations and explaining everything they try to say. Sometimes they leave hidden meanings and messages in those paintings that people spend years interpreting, those incomprehensible words and emotions. Here are some of the world-famous paintings with hidden messages that will leave you mesmerized and stunned. If you haven't already, hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more videos. The Scream by Edvard Munch, 1893. One of the most famous paintings in the world, The Scream by Edvard Munch, features a man with his hands on his face, screaming into oblivion. In the painting itself, Munch wrote a secret message in the upper left-hand corner that read, "Can only have been painted by a madman." Art scholars believe that he wrote that on his painting after his first exhibit, which was scrutinized harshly by critics. This may have been a quote from one of the nasty comments he received for his work. Edvard Munch suffered from mental illness. He was hospitalized for a nervous breakdown several years later, in 1908. Munch once wrote, quote, "For as long as I can remember, I have suffered from a deep feeling of anxiety, which I have tried to express in my art." Still Life with Cheeses, Almonds, and Pretzels by Clara Peters, 1615. At first glance, the painting by Clara Peters called Still Life with Cheeses, Almonds, and Pretzels seems like a very typical still life. You can see the various assortment of lunchtime snacks laid out on the table. But if you look closely at the metal lid of the jug in the center of the painting, you just might be able to see that Clara Peters included her hidden self-portrait there. What makes this even more impressive is that she would have had to paint in miniature in order to pull this off as well as she did. The Garden of Earthly Delights by Hieronymus Bosch, 1490 to 1510. Artist Hieronymus Bosch created the Garden of Earthly Delights between 1490 and 1510. It took him literally 20 years to finish this masterpiece. There is so much to look at in this painting that hidden messages were found as late as 2014 when a college student discovered hidden musical notes. In the lower corner, there is a musical score tattooed on someone's behind. When played, the music sounds quite unsettling. The Old Guitarist by Pablo Picasso, 1903 to 1904. The Blue Period defined the works produced by Spanish painter Pablo Picasso between 1901 and 1904, when he painted monochromatic paintings in shades of blue and blue-green, only occasionally warmed by other colors. He painted The Old Guitarist in 1903, which has been considered one of his greatest works ever. In 1998, art historians used an infrared camera to study the painting. They discovered that Picasso had actually painted over another painting, which featured the image of a woman. As the years went on, the paint began to fade. If you look closely, you can see the woman's face above the old man's neck. Picasso painted this after one of his best friends, Casamegas, took his own life. In 1902, Picasso was essentially penniless and struggled financially. It's not really surprising that he would reuse a canvas for a new project. He sympathized with people who were ill, homeless, and impoverished. The Old Guitarist represents what it's like to live in poverty and emotional turmoil. The Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh, 1889. The famous painting The Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh was painted while he was living in a mental hospital. Many art historians attribute the swirls in the style of painting to his mental state. In a 2014 TED Talk, a scientist named Natalia St. Clair revealed the hidden genius behind the painting. These swirls were actually a representation of an extremely complicated mathematical concept called turbulent flow. In 2004, using the Hubble Space Telescope, scientists saw the eddies of a distant cloud of dust and gas around a star, and it reminded them of Van Gogh's Starry Night. That motivated scientists to study Van Gogh's paintings in detail, and when they did, they discovered that there was a distinct pattern of turbulent fluid structures hidden in many of Van Gogh's paintings. Supper at Emmaus by Michelangelo Merisi di Caravaggio, 1601. In the 1601 painting, Supratimaeus by Caravaggio, it depicts the scene in the Bible where Jesus comes back from the dead and reveals himself to his disciples, Luke and Cleopas, at an inn. There is a shadow cast in the basket of fruit, but if you look closely at the wicker, there is an ichthus emblem, which looks like a fish. In modern times, a lot of people refer to the ichthus emblem as the Jesus fish, which is famously put all over t-shirts and bumper stickers. This is popularly believed to be a reference to when Jesus magically fed a huge crowd of people with just a few fish. Young Woman Powdering Herself by Georges Seurat, 1889 to 1890. At first glance, the painting called A Young Woman Powdering Herself seems like a straightforward portrait of a woman putting on makeup. But when you look at the painting under an X-ray, it reveals that the flower in the top left corner used to contain a hidden self-portrait of Seurat. According to legend, a friend saw this original version and told him that it looked very strange, so he took his friend's advice and painted over the flower. Another hidden secret about this painting is that the woman is actually Madeleine Noblac, Seurat's 20-year-old mistress. He never tried to paint any other self-portraits into his paintings like that in the history of his work, so clearly this was some sort of secret homage to their relationship. David and Goliath by Michelangelo, 1509. Just like the famous story from the Bible, this painting from the Sistine Chapel depicts the Battle of David and Goliath. Michelangelo usually formed his figures into various shapes of body parts. This time, though, David's stance is in the shape of the Hebrew word gamil, which means strength, and it can also represent reward and punishment. That works perfectly for this Bible story. At the time, Michelangelo had become interested in Judaism, and even painted the proportions of the ceiling that matched those of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. The word gamil was hidden there, meant to find and spread the peace and love between Judaism and Christianity. Madonna of St. Giovannino by Domenico Ghirlandaio, 15th century. One of the biggest reasons why Madonna of St. Giovannino by Domenico Ghirlandaio is so famous is because it's speculated to have a hidden UFO painted in the background. Alien enthusiasts believe that this is proof that there was some sort of alien sighting way back in the 15th century. Other people believe that the flying object is meant to represent a passage from the Gospel of Luke that says, quote, "Shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night, and lo, an angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them." The Music Lesson by Johannes Vermeer, 1662 to 1665. At first glance, The Music Lesson by Johannes Vermeer seems to be an innocent image of a young woman learning how to play the piano, but in reality, it's full of hidden symbols of sensuality. At first, it appears as though she is looking down at the keys, but if you look in the mirror, you can see that her face is turned, and her eyes locked with the gaze of her instructor. There are also small hidden symbols throughout the painting, like the wine on the table that is meant to be an aphrodisiac. There's also an instrument on the floor that apparently symbolizes a phallus. Probably the most telling was the Latin inscription hidden in the painting that said, "Music is a companion in pleasure and a balm in sorrow." This painting was so sought after, it became a part of the British Royal Collection Trust.
Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.